Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's panel discussion brought to you by HR Association of India. At HRAI, our mission is to create platforms that connect, inspire, and empower professionals through meaningful conversations and shared learning. On behalf of HRAI, I extend a warm welcome to our participants to today's discussion on this insightful topic, the culture advantage, building a workplace that attracts, retains, and inspires talent. First and foremost, our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed speakers for joining us today and contributing their valuable perspective to this panel discussion. Mr. Ravi Shankar Singh, who is taking care of human resources at Lifestyle International Private Limited, Karthik Mula Head Learning and Development at Omega Healthcare, Srinath Guru Rajarao, CEO and founder at Grovon Solutions, advisor to board at Nextwell.ai, and managing partner at Niche HR Global. Kingsley Kurian, VP and Head HR at Tridasa Reality Ventures Private Limited, and Vivekanand Kaduguntla, Learning Lead at Pekka. We are truly honored to have such accomplished leaders with us, bringing their expertise and experience to today's discussion. To know more about our speakers, you may follow them on LinkedIn. Their profiles have been shared in the chat window. For more information about HREI and our upcoming events, please refer to the links shared in the chat. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for the session, Mr. Vivek, and invite him to take over as we move into this insightful and engaging session. Over to you, Mr. Vivek.
Thank you, Faisal. Thanks a lot for that introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's session brought to you by the HR Association of India under the series we call Connecting the Dots. And every Thursday, we meet to explore a few of these HR-related topics. And it's a pleasure to be a moderator for such a wonderful topic and such a wonderful panelist here today. And today's topic that we are going to talk about is the culture advantage, building a workplace that attracts, retains, and inspires talent. For this topic, I'm glad we have leaders from diverse backgrounds and industries. We can also get an insight into how the cultures typically shape and impact, certain things that we consider really important for our workforce as well. But culture is also one of those words that gets used a lot. We post that as JDs and we talk about that as part of town halls. Every strategy that typically talks about culture in some capacity and then say we are the best culture out there, we are the unique culture out there, etc. But our attempt today is to decode that and draw parallels with what is culture in a real world, what is perceived by the workforce when they walk into the office, when they interact with the other colleagues, etc. as well. And also, how does culture really show up when things aren't going according to the plan? When budgets are really tight or when teams are distributed, remote work is still happening, hybrid is still being figured out by a lot of organizations as well. And we can't ignore the elephant in the room, which is AI. It's shaping the way that we work, the way that we interact, and multiple other things in a transformative fashion as well. So we are here today to dig into those aspects and then talk about practically what culture means to us as well. Welcome to the four panelists, and thank you for making time for this conversation. I'm sure everybody will benefit from the experience and the insights that you are going to share with us today. With that, I do have a few questions that I'm prepared with, and I can probably start with you, Srinath. I know you have been a part of the corporate world. Now you are an entrepreneur, a co-founder of your own, organization, building AI solutions, etc. And talking about the impacts of AI, we do hear continuously layoffs and restructuring that have become pretty common right now. Some international, some India level, and other organizations as well. But I'm more worried about. I'm equally worried about the employees that stay back after these layoffs or restructuring typically happens. How do you rebuild trust with this group without sounding it like only theoretical or only empty reassurances for that matter? How do we work with employee workforce like that?
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you to all the participants who've been, taking time out to hear to our, words, and decide whether it is wise or unwise, right? And it's a very pertinent question with AI playing out, and a lot of flux in the system in terms of new words, new processes, new practices, skilling, upskilling that has been going on. How do you maintain the semblance, the balance that actually works to keep your peace, keep your calm, and still perform, right? In the era of layoffs, and which has aggravated a little bit with the geopolitical environments around, and also the AI playing out, I think it's a double whammy currently that is playing out in the organizations of where uncertainty is given. Uh, as managers, as leaders, how do we navigate this? The best thing that the culture puts forth is when it is tested in the times of uncertainty, right? When I say that, whether we rally together as an organization or we rain upon each other in an organization in times of uncertainty, this defines how solid the foundations of working together, collaboration, and dealing with navigating those challenges that surface. Uh, you mentioned about layoffs, right? So that is inevitable in the way how transformation is also, being played out with AI across the board. Everybody carries AI. We'll need to distinguish between how somebody is with intellectual words or wise deeds. There's a clear marker. Intellectual words now surface across the board. You just have to use your mobile and the words flow out, right, with for every question. However, what you still need to figure out and find out is those wise deeds, where it is performed, when it is performed, and how it is performed, being together. That is how we deal with it. Three things stand out when layoffs play off. How do you navigate that when you're still around and seeing the bricks falling apart, right? So one thing that I have in my experience, being in multiple organizations seen, and one that I'm trying to build now, is to be able to communicate with trust and honesty and truthful. Not all words, not all aspects of a business can be put forth, but as long as you're holding your hands together, as long as you're patting on the shoulder and saying, let's walk this together, and I am with you, and this is how we have been challenged, and this is how we will navigate. I don't have an answer, but together we will find. That's one very strong message in any scenario that can work well for those who remain and are holding the fort together. Second thing is to be able to constantly communicate aspects of change, radical change, transformation, not just the aspects of running the company, but also changing the company. Together is very sound in terms of messaging, in terms of communication, in terms of those one-on-ones, the coffee corner conversations. That helps. Instead of rumors taking over, it is important that solid communication is shared and exchanged, and questions are invited there, right? So when people are put to difficulty, they obviously come back and say, you know what, this is what I'm going through, how are you dealing with it? Leadership is questioned. That is when we say, let's walk together, I don't have all the answers, and be honest about it. Instead of coloring it with great words, I would say just extend that arm of help and ask for help. And that shows humility in leadership, authenticity in leadership, to be able to work together to navigate those. I think these are oft repeated, but rarely practiced. And once we put those to practice as leaders, as managers, as a set of people who are managing set of people, organizations should see through any difficulty, not just the AI playing out or layoffs playing out. Another important facet is my colleagues here, my friends here would also share is about skilling up to ensure that you navigate some aspects. Those are operational details in terms of how, what, where, when, to be able to ride through the wave that is playing out. That is another facet. So I think that sums up what I wanted to share on this question, Vivek.
Very articulate, Srinath. I really appreciate that. And I think that's an important distinction too, right? The words wise deeds versus the intellectual words that you're talking about. kind of points to the fact that trust is not built through just a communication alone. It has to be the behavior as well, what you demonstrate, the
Right.
open dialogue and entertaining questions and walking with them through the uncertain times, I think is definitely going to be important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And as long as we're talking about trust, of course, it connects very closely to the culture, the kind of culture that people actually believe in versus the kind that just looks good on paper, or good on careers page that we talk about, or promotions that we do on LinkedIn kind of posters, etc. So Kingsley, let me bring this to you from a question point of view. When everybody talks about purpose-driven culture, everybody says our culture is the most unique, our culture is the best, please join us and then let's change the world. How do you spot the difference between one that's real culture versus that's just well promoted or well marketed?
Okay. Now, with the culture discussion, that we've put across today, I think, a very famous management, philosopher, Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Uh,
Yeah.
you might have a great plan. The business might have a wonderful plan. But again, if it doesn't gets the buy-in of the employees or maybe their ideals or their ideas, it will never stand the test of time, right? So in terms of what is real and what is unreal, there are many things which are unreal. For an example, many of us in our organizations would see the vision or mission written very boldly in marble, in great colors, right? But inside it's a different a thing altogether, right? It's just like maybe a cricket loving nation. If you take a example of Lucknow Super Giants, right? They've had some wonderful players like KL Rahul and your Rishabh Pant, but the owner is always be poking them from behind to play, right? To post a match also he's behind them. Would you always choose to be in the LSG squad, or would you be in the RCB squad? Right, that's a question.
Yeah.
That's true culture. People do not like it, right? So there are two things here. One is the purpose of the culture. That is basically, is it authentic or is it marketed, right? Authentic purpose or authentic things always drives decisions, but marketed purpose always drives advertising. There might be a lot of ads that we give you this, we give you that, we give you Sodexos, we give you leaves in terms of whatever is required. But again, the structure in the team is very different, right? The manager calls the shots. You're not empowered, you're not given your say in the decision making, or maybe contribution is not rewarded, or maybe it is not recognized, right? Those things, it is visible in behavior, in an authentic purpose, but it is in a marketed purpose, it is only visible in campaigns, right? We see that in and through, day in and day out. And culture as a word is leadership driven. It is not anywhere else. The founders would have come with a certain motto that this is what I want to see the company grow to, or this is what I want to see the company come up with. But down the line, it's the leaders who take this culture ahead, right? Your vision, mission, values, and all this, right, comes through how the leaders support their teams, and how this culture is being driven to the lowmost person, right? From the bellboy to the chairman, everything goes through a proper culture as such. Also, in a authentic purpose, it always builds trust. Whereas if it is unreal, right, there are people who will talk back, right? The best form of culture is sometimes whenever you head to a cafeteria, when people are talking very personal things out there, you will actually get to know the actual strength of the company, right? What is it all about? What are certain things? Which managers are good? I mean, has it happened with everyone? I think it has definitely happened. You can put it on the chat as well, right? So, those things are always there. And always, as you say, purpose always, becomes believable when people, you know, uh, walk the talk, right? It's not just about, talking about culture, right? It's about walking that as well. I mean, showing the others the way. I mean, how things are in an organization during crisis. When you build a particular, culture with values, with all this, during crisis is when you will actually know who are the people who stayed with you, who are the people who are not there with you, right? So this is something. I mean, there might be a lot of reels on social media that our company gives this, our company gives that, everything is there. But again, when you dig deeper, I mean, the hole is really very deep.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you very much, Kingsley, for that. And yeah, more emphasis on real behavior versus communication or promotion as well. And maybe walking into the cafeteria is probably, we can standardize that as a litmus test. If you're able to really jump in and then see how people are connecting or, sharing their experiences, personal or otherwise, I think is a great test that we can continue to consider as part of our culture evaluation as well. And
Vivek, just to let you know, Ravi Shankar had to leave due to some critical emergency that required immediate attention. So we can pass on the questions to the other panelists. That case.
sure, definitely. Thank you, Faisal. For yeah, I was trying to check on the group to see what happened, but hope
Yeah,
everything is
it's
under
fine.
control. Yeah. And just about, we are talking about behavior as well as communication, right? So when a leader is required to jump into uh, attend to an important or a critical issue for an employee, I think we are talking to the right leaders, we are talking to the right forum as well. So hope everything will be all right. Now, talking about culture, real versus promotion, etc. Even when the culture is genuine, keeping it up for a long time, as in sustaining it, can be harder as well, because the workplace itself has fundamentally changed. Because when we talk about culture, right, it has to be in sync with or in parallel with some of the work that we typically do. So, Karthik, if I can come to you with this question, with hybrid work being the norm now, a lot of organizations are doing 2 days of work, 2 days a week, or 3 days a week, and the other days are slightly flexible. We do that too. So, how do you build a strong culture when people aren't even in the same room or on the same office floor most of the time? Microsoft Teams or WebEx or Zoom has been one of the primary platforms where we connect and solve problems, right? So, how do we ensure that strong culture is created and sustained for a long time?
Thank you, Vivek, for the great question, and happy afternoon to all the members who took time in joining this. Vivek, indeed, this question somehow coincidentally relates to my own living example within my team. Okay, I work out of office, and rest of my team works out of home, and that is something which I want to set the tone with. Culture is just not about the proximity; it is about the consistency that we try to show, and how do we build it. That's the first thing which I start looking into. And second thing, it's not about just managing the presence or having their presence around, but how do we create a meaningful experiences when we especially work in hybrid environment plays a critical role. And I don't think hybrid is new to us. Now, when we work in a global organizations, wherever we all have been working in an MNCs, when we claim our leaders are in different geographies and different countries, and hybrid has been earlier days on the Cisco phones, okay, and now it became Teams or Cisco, WebEx, etc. So, in my point of view, how I see one can build a strong culture is one. Uh, there should be intentional and informal relationship that needs to be built in. Now, any leader should have an intentional conversations and informal interactions. And that is something even on the teams. Now I catch up. Now I see my team member at 10 o'clock in the night, and I just ask him, "Is everything okay? Is it something bothering?" That's a smile. That small check is always keeps the person calm. Now, second thing, what I feel is that we need to understand what they do rather than why it matters. Now, what they do, something we try to understand, then we will also know why it matters to them and how we can step in as the senior leaders will play a critical role. And last but not least, I see that I strongly believe and I endorse this, especially when leaders are working in an hybrid environment. We should only focus on the outcomes rather than how many hours they are really clocking and sitting on the in front of their laptops and logging into the meetings, etc. If people want to take a break during the day and they want to step out to some of their bank works or some of their doctor appointments, everything, which is fine, let us empower them so that they can come back and they can take care of the rest of the day. Now, I let us not dilute the culture just to be in a walls or as a values in some organizations. That is how I primarily see, Vivek, and that's how I encourage my team. Whatever timings they want to log in, they log in, and I don't even ask if they need to go anywhere. What we only have a one thumb rule is that let us keep accessible ourselves on the phone, if at least not on the Teams.
Wonderful. I think that's a great practical frame. I think, Karthik, thank you very much for sharing a detailed response to that. Because I do think the instinct of a lot of organizations is to solve for proximity. I mean, we still hear conversations about how many days you need to go to work, or how far do you stay? Is there a policy? Are you being tracked? Is there coffee badging and aspects like that? So, but the actual conversation should be solving for connection, the intentional connect that you're talking about, or the informal conversations to ask people about how they are doing. Doesn't matter if it's Teams or Zoom, or staying in touch and having that trust is definitely one of the best ways to ensure that you inculcate that good culture across the organization, and also sustain that over a long period to create that psychological safety as well. And talking about psychological safety, we also received one question as a comment on LinkedIn yesterday that was also, pointing in that direction, and then say, before people join the organization, or go through the orientation and check the poster on the wall, which talks about the vision, mission, as well as all the culture statements, let's say, the way they are welcomed, the way they are greeted is kind of an indication of how good or bad a culture is. And we have heard instances of where people start on day one, and by the end of the day they decide that I don't want to be part of an organization like this. They leave their equipment and then move on as well. So rightly put, and correctly talking about the real aspects that are connection based as well. And by the way, the chat is open for all the participants that are tuned in today. If you would like to ask any question to any of the panelists, please do share your questions on the chat too. Towards the end, we'll definitely acknowledge and get to as many questions as we can as part of the same conversation. Now, coming back to the questions again, some of the prepared ones that we are keen to understand basis your experience. Srinath, this one is for you. And we are changing the gears a little bit. Now, the proximity or the hybrid work related is something that we were talking about from a culture point of view. How will that impact the culture, etc.? So given where you are and your experimentation with the AI organization and as a co-founder, because AI has become an integral part of everyday right now, how is it actually changing what culture even means inside an organization? Is that having an impact the same way the workflows are being impacted, the same way the productivity is being impacted? What's the impact of AI on culture for us now?
Great question, Vivek. I love this question. Uh, Earlier, the person who had the most answers would rally a lot of people around, right, to just get through the day. Right now, what we find is the person who has most answers is not found to be with people, but the person who asks better questions are, right? So it has become more, better dimensional in terms of explorative nature, in terms of probing, exploring new ways of doing things, because answers are found organized now on an AI. So the culture earlier that existed, where we could sit together and find answers, are more of asking better questions now and finding a greater solution than before. AI isn't replacing culture, it's just redefining it. It has a better tool in your hand now, where it helps organizations unlock values faster, unlock values together, and adapt. Now, what has changed on the ground is learning has become continuous. The formal learning, informal learning, it is the impetus on learning has accelerated than when we were before. That definitely is a big trend, right? In terms of getting yourself skilled, getting yourself, learning new things. How do I bring that tool, the powerful tool that we have around, to be able to make a difference to our day-to-day organizational stuff? Processes, practices, all are now shaken up and then explored to see how do I incorporate this, right? So that is one. Second dimension is hierarchies. Formal hierarchies have more or less relegated to a corner office of administrative empowerment, rather than the real power where the skill is honored, where the knowledge is honored better, where better questions are given the podium which it deserves, right? So that is how the organizational shift is taking place, and that is changing the dimension of how we run our organizations too. So you have a skill hierarchy now, you have efficiency hierarchy, you have practice hierarchy. Somebody is suddenly found something new that can work and it can impact across the organization, and they jump around and come back, and that gets the attention that it deserves, right? So it has become more creative, more I should say empowering. I think it is also right to say and use the word democratic, right? The power to have and unlock an answer and be able to come back and actually deliver on your day-to-day stuff, day-to-day processes, day-to-day evaluations, day-to-day practices is so empowering each individual, as long as they use it. If I am still thinking that my titles, my hierarchy, my designation, my grade, band, level commands that respect and should be commanded, I don't think so that is the case anymore, right? The respect is now cornered at who can better my practice, who can alleviate my pain of day-to-day mundane with an AI, with better work and words, and how do I do that? I think this is another one. I think with this, the third one, because most important, is how do I enable decision making much better? Because at the end of the day, a manager, a leader, anybody who commands a set of people with them, I use that very consciously, with them and not over them, is to be able to say, how do we navigate together better by using AI? Can we unlock the values that as an organization we can do better with that? I think this is a great tool that has been unlocked. I think these are the things, and some of the companies like Microsoft, Accenture's, our own organization, have bought in AI governance structures, right? In terms of how do we use it, what do we use it for, how do we make our applications and platforms much better, and deliver value much faster and better, right? That is at the end of the day. So I think instead of getting scared about it, I think it is time for us to unlock the power it can enable organizations and become a better culture in terms of learning, exploring, questioning the paradigms and the old practices. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a very fascinating lens, Srinath. I was smiling along the way because I could think of some of those instances that I experienced on the floor as well, from a hierarchy or power point of view as well. But I think what you're also describing is a situation where culture can no longer be just about how people relate to each other, but it also now has to include how people relate to technology and who owns that conversation inside that organization as well. Because
Yes.
everybody has a level playing ground to a certain extent where tools are available. As you rightly said, it's not somebody with a lot of answers that is celebrated right now, but people who are able to ask the right questions, because the answers are available if you're able to ask the right questions as well. And anybody who used to complain that I was not a technical person, or I did not, formally have a technical education like an engineering and coding background, is no longer stifled by that as a limitation. Vibe
Absolutely.
coding and creating agents, we are seeing a lot of development from HR fraternity, as well as a lot of people who did not go through that as an experience in their background are creating amazing tools and amazing solutions using AI as well. So yeah, it's wonderful to have technology be one of those integral parts of culture right now. Thank you very much for that insight. Now, a lot of what we are talking about typically assumes that these are stable organizations, certain level of organizations which have maturity, which have the foundations in place, and there is some structure, some system in place. And right now, we are talking about culture in isolation. But Kingsley, let me come back to you for this question. For mid-size or smaller organizations that could be budget conscious, let's say, I can't go to a Deloitte, I can't go to EY, I can't go to any other consulting firm to understand the best frameworks and put together a culture that can probably work best, etc. And I can't compete on a lot of perks as well. I can't give my employees a lot of uh, employee related benefits, or aspects that can really be very motivating. How should we think about building culture? What do you think will help us to ensure that we put that culture in place without these hunky dory privileges that a larger organizations can enjoy?
Okay, just to tell you, Vivek, culture is not a budget, item. I mean, it is basically a leadership choice, as I was, telling you previously. I myself am working with a startup. I mean, when we started this company 3 years back, this is a real estate company, and 3 years back when I met the founders, they said that we want the best of people and all that. But I only told them that it's only your values and your culture which would drive things forward, or else it will be where it is. We will be just like another company, and we'll let it go. But today, I'm very happy to say that many people from the who's of who real estate companies have joined us, right? And it's basically adhering to something from the company's strong points. That is your vision, mission, and values as such. Now they are pretty much doing quite well in their sales too. Earlier, I was also instrumental in setting up one major real estate company in Hyderabad. All this was driven through culture. I mean, ensuring that it's not about the benefits that you give. It's about how well you take care of your people, right? When I hire people, I'm very clear that we're looking at a long term. We're not looking at any short term like an IT firm or anything like that. It is like, this project is yours. This is something that you are going to do. This is something that you will get value out of this, right? That is what we connect these people, our engineers, our ground staff. Now today, well, when I was in a previous real estate company, I hired four female employees at the site as site engineers, and it's been 5 years from then. They are still there, right? The reason is, I mean, you have to create things. I mean, it's in a man dominated world as real estate, women also have stepped forward now. I mean, they are looking at, gone are the days of all the easy job work. They want to also do the hard work. They want to actually have a look at how the site functions, right? So that is how you embed culture. Bringing in diversity, primarily at a place where nobody else could do that. Also, where you, as I was telling you, that you have to build trust above benefits. That is something that is with the employees. It is not, there's a simple formula as such, right? It is, what is culture all about? Culture is nothing but your everyday experience, and which is multiplied into consistency.
Sure.
Right? So that's the formula primarily for culture. I mean, that is something that you'll have to, that is there for every organization primarily. Also, over the time, I think you will have to recognize people quite well. I mean, that is something that is a must, because the smaller milestones also you'll have to, celebrate. Like at our site, whenever there's a milestone that we achieve for this month, like 2 slabs we have to do. We instead of that we've done 2.5 slabs. We celebrate those milestones. That is something that will keep them going, and also give them a voice. I mean, there are many times when the juniors are not heard, right? I mean, I know of this junior architect who was sharing a valid point in one of the drawings, saying that this, if we use this, he was from Nikmar. He said that if we use this, the thing would be really right at the end of the day. The project manager was not willing to listen to that, but finally he made his way. He showed us that how it was. I mean, with his presentation. I think post that, I think they've taken a call that we would go in that way itself, right? So there are times when we'll have to empower people. We'll have to also listen to them, give them some ear to hear as such. I mean, or else it what happens is it is all confusion out there, right? Also empower managers. That's something that is a very strong point. It's basically, they say, right, I mean, people don't leave organizations, they leave managers, right? If they are not empowered even for the smallest of things, I think they will definitely ensure that the team is also destroyed. So it is basically making all of them together and ensuring that the simple formula always stays. It is creating everyday experience. The employee will never think of what all you've done to them. Maybe a great party, or a outing, or a leadership program, or something like that, right? He will never look at all that. What is in it for him on a day-to-day basis is something that he will remember for a long time. So that's why I said it is everyday experiences multiplied by your consistency on a day-to-day basis is something that's culture.
Thank you, Kingsley. Thank you very much for that. And I know more than a few examples where people said, somebody called me, they are offering more money, but I prefer to stay back because I like people here. I like the culture here. I would prefer peace of mind over, a few percentage points hike in the overall salary, etc. So I think I completely agree with what you're trying to do there. And also the diversity related focus aspect that you talked about. Somebody as a site engineer, I would typically assume that as a male dominated, profession for that matter. But I've had one experience like that too, where I was interviewing a college graduate as part of a campus interview for an IT role. And this wasn't a sitting on a computer, resetting passwords and setting up computers. This also involved carrying CPUs back then from one warehouse to another warehouse. And it was a female, candidate that we were talking to. She did question and then say, if I'm willing to get my hands dirty and then carry the CPUs and workstations, why wouldn't you give me an opportunity? And she turned out to be one of the successful IT employees we've ever had. So I completely agree with you in terms of culture and the diversity elements and all the other behavior that you demonstrate as part of an organization. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, talking about the workforce and difference of opinions and new ways of looking at things, Karthik, here is one interesting question for you. Gen Z is a very big chunk of most workforces now. Gen Z has started working, and we can see a lot of decisions or preferences that are being questioned at workplaces now. Just this morning, I was reading an article that said an employee refused to provide a doctor's certificate and apparently said, we are all grown-ups now. We are not in school. Let's move on and then focus on getting better and not get hung up on doctors' recommendations and certificates, which is true. It makes a lot of sense, right? So the question to you is, what is something that leaders still get wrong about what this generation actually wants from a culture point of view?
Thanks, Vivek. And glad to you shared what you read today morning. There is a lot of misconception which is there in irrespective of what scale of the organization is. That Gen Z's, some of the labels that I've seen is they are unprofessional, they get out stressed out, resilience is low, and they get burnt out very fast. They talk about psychological safety. These are all becoming, they are not professional enough. They don't know even how to prepare a presentation, how to do a proper communication, or how to even need to interact with the leaders. All these things, unfortunately, they were being labeled for non-promising reasons, given that multi-generations is working through. I have to give you my own personal example. 10 years back, I was much younger than what I am right now in terms of age and the experience. And in the organization I worked over there, it's just been 3 days I've joined, and one of my uh, reportee came across to me to say hi, and that's her first job, and it's been 1 week for her. So the very first question, she met me and said that, so when did you did your management? So I said 99 2000. So the very first thing she said, so then तब तो मैं 4 साल की थी. I was like 4 years old at then. So for a moment I didn't know how do I need to even react also. Okay, so in a humor way I said, okay, you do one thing. Going forward, you call me as your grandfather. So and my boss as your great grandfather. That's how you can do it. Now, in a curious manner, she landed up asking me, who will be my mother or father? Now, I said, if you are reporting to a lady, it will be a mother. If you are reporting to a guy, it will be a father. That's how you see it and run the show. Now, but however, if I see in a real time basis, what I learned it and I understood, having my own niece and nephews also who are Gen Zs, till the time they have a clarity of purpose, what they are doing, okay, and we respect their intentions and we listen to their intentions, okay, and I think most of the problem gets resolved. And there is lots of curiosity to learn that is coming across, like Srinath also rightly said, they want to ask questions, and what they believe the question is right, they are asking. And unfortunately, we misjudge by saying that's not the right question. Oh, this question shouldn't have asked in the right forum. Oh, this is not, you should have spoken this question to this person. If they were that greatly understood, I don't think none of us will have our jobs anymore. Okay. So I think we need to allow them to ask the questions with unconditional judgments, perceptions, and biases, and we need to make them learn, and they want to explore the avenues, we need to allow them to explore, and we need to kind of hold them back with a hierarchy or designations or labels and approachabilities. We shouldn't be tying. The more we leave them easily and freely into the water, they will able to figure it out. Okay, and what I understand is most of the times they look for meaningful work, and they want to understand how do they can contribute back to the larger good. Okay, and I have seen people coming across. Will you able to give me consistent feedback? And now in that they are trying to see how they are getting coached rather than getting directed. Now, they don't like to see the directions. They can figure out the direction. Now, you just tell why and what, how they will do it. I think that's the space we need to allow them to do. Maybe if I'm sure I remember when I was young and I started my career, anybody puts these guardrails, I get claustrophobic. I'm sure the same will be with all the Gen Zs also. So at least that's what I constantly encourage, that we need to allow them to ask questions. We need to listen to them and allow them to be non-hierarchical, which is absolutely fine. And if they want to manage their careers. All they want it is the direction how to manage the careers. Give the perspectives through coaching. I think it will work through rather than
Wonderful.
unnecessarily we judge the personalities, we judge the behaviors, but we don't need we need to just observe and guide them.
Wonderful. Really appreciate your perspective. And that's a perspective shift that I think a lot of managers probably need as well. There is a genuine need for us to educate a lot of managers on that, because the instinct is often to manage Gen Z the same way that they were managed back then, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. This is what my manager did, and that's how I've learned. And therefore, I think that's the right principle that I would like to guide you as well. And when these managers, perhaps we can't generalize, some of these were shying away or running away from some of the feedback that's coming their way, is a very different experience when Gen Z comes forward and then says, "Can you give me feedback, or can you give me more feedback, or regular feedback, etc." That's a shift that is happening as part of the overall culture. And I think anybody who's been more than 10, 15 years in their experience should definitely have that reality check and realignment with the current expectations and norms of the workforce that is taking over right now as well. So wonderful.
And Vivek, sorry to interrupt. This is a classic example of Vaibhav Sooryavanshi. Okay, every time he gets in and bangs ball left, right, center, and post match, when the commentator tends to ask the captain, okay, how do you deal with this young guy? Now, he likes to eat whatever he likes to eat and he wants to go around. We just leave him as it is. Let him take the risk. There's nothing harming. So I think we should allow that and people will groom themselves.
Yeah, create the right conditions for growth, right conditions for performance, and give them that liberty to figure out how they want to meet the outcomes or the goals, right? I think that's the best culture that we can talk about as well. Now, Srinath, let me come back to you. I know we are talking about multiple aspects and multiple perspectives that we can probably think about for managers and Gen Zs, etc. Um, but there is also this aspect that always holds true. Whatever can be measured can be improved, or how do I test whether this is working or not? Talking about it is one way. Implementing and experimenting is another way. But how do you actually know if our culture is working? Are there any real signals beyond maybe engagement survey? That's definitely good feedback, and I think a lot of organizations do that. But beyond engagement scores, do you think there are any other indicators or signals that can help us to see if the culture is actually working good?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, this is a good, deep question. In terms of surveys, I would say they never lasted more than a quarter, right? As long as the numbers hit 4.5 on a scale of 5, everybody was happy, and the graphs looked more brighter and greener and more colorful. And then it was done with a lot of applause, right? But the real signals come in those the vox populi that the people write. One person writing that this is the pain that I'm experiencing. Has that been addressed? This is what I am needing from the organization today. Can you enable that? Right. The question is not somebody's expressing. Question is, how do we address those single employee who feels a particular direction needs help? Right. That is what those signals talk about in terms of culture. Have we addressed the last person in the organization to feel like he is the first person that gets addressed to? Right, that is the culture. Some of the good signals for organization in terms of running great organizations and with good culture, healthy culture, is to be able to see how employee referrals work. Are my employees bringing their people who they trust, who they have grown with, who they have studied with, who they have worked with in the past to our organization? Right? It's a great signal to say, okay, this is healthy. People feel that this organization can fulfill the aspirations of the individual while ensuring that they are happier, they are safer, and their aspirations are met. Another great signal is also, are the managers treating the employees well? Because at the end of the day, no matter how and what our banners and our posters and our posts on LinkedIn shout out, and what those awards, hundreds of 100, top 100, top 50, top 30, signify. At the end of the day, the culture that the team experiences is through the lens of their managers. Is my manager taking care of me? Is their manager available to me? Is my manager ensuring that I grow? And is that help available when it is needed? right? So those are the signals. If one toxic manager can run riot of your employer branding permanently, right? So it is that signal. Another one is also how safe I feel in an environment, right? Today we hear a lot of disturbance of great places to work, highly recognized organization, disturbing aspects coming on the floor of their facilities, right? Where employees are treated badly. We had one yesterday. I mean, these are great organizations, but did we fail somewhere to read the signals right? Did we only look at from a biased view of scoring a particular number, but did not relate it to the human aspect of those numbers where the numbers were low? Did we fail there? Those are the signals that needs to be make it more prominent. Today we have the tools and technology to be able to read those, go back and act on the ground. That is why I say still the wise words can be many, but wise deeds are very few, and that needs to amplify from every leader's table to see and feel and create an atmosphere where they actually experience great culture, not just on the banners and the posters that we do. I hope I've been able to carry my message on this.
I think it's very crystal and clear, Srinath. I know engagement scores is something which is easy to administer, and therefore a lot of people put focus on that because you can show whether the needle is moved or not. As you rightly said, if it is 4 and then it moved to 4.5, we celebrate and then we move past that. But these are the signals that can really help us to ensure that is the real world culture matching with what we have on paper from a score point of view as well.
Yeah.
Now, I do have a few more questions with me, but in the interest of time, if we can answer the couple of questions that are coming up in the chat as well. I see one question from Megha. I'll read out. Whoever is willing to jump in with your perspectives, please do so. Employer branding often creates expectations before a candidate joins. How can organizations ensure that the culture employees experience on day 100 is as authentic as the culture they were promised on day 1?
I would simply say, the organization should ensure that whatever you put on your banners and branding is actually lived experiences throughout. Experience could be bad on day 1 and bad continues to be worst on day 100. We don't want that authenticity. What we want is what we commit and how it should be. The appropriateness of ensuring your employees are happier, smiling more, encouraging, collaborating, working with teams, enjoying the atmosphere and contributing to the overall organizations. And as long as the cultures take care of that and do not stricture, as Karthik sometime back mentioned, you don't direct and put guardrails, which actually diminishes the brightness of your new joiners, right? So the light should carry, the light should become brighter. That is the true culture, and we should build those as leaders, and we should oversee that this is taking place. I'm sure there are a lot of business prerogatives that come forth to your budgets. Not all of it is driven by budgets, right? Sometimes it's just going and standing next to the person and saying, what, I'm there for you, right? So that is needed. I think that is living to the brand. That is living to the brand that you want to create as well, right? Your brand might be saying something today. You can better that with your shine, with your activities, with your physical extension of the good that you bring to the table. Yeah. So I think that should answer the authenticity part very well. So that's the promise you carry.
And the intent, right? If you're really willing to do something good, I think it definitely shows up. As simple as having that conversation to be there. Sorry to cut you off, Karthik. You were saying something.
No problem. Extension to what Srinath rightly said. I'll take it a little further. Let's not be a salesman when we are trying to reach out to the candidates, okay? And show the sign of desperation that we are the best candidates and they want us by tomorrow on board. Okay, that happens. Now, people tend to submit out of excitement, and during the interview process, lots of branding happens about tom-tomming about their companies. And yes, like Srinath rightly said, best place to work, etc., etc. But we do know certain things how people do get these tags also. So now, once people step in, if what they experience on the day one is a more of a marketing, and that is not something non-sustainable, okay, then people are not that blind enough to smell the coffee and voice it out, especially current workforce, where you voice it out very evidently. And thanks to multiple platforms, internally or externally, people don't hesitate to hold their cards. So, as a
Wonderful.
leaders and as an organizations, it is a litmus test to them that can they stand up and live consistently and deliver.
Megha,
I
I
think on
hope you
the
got.
yeah, sorry, Vivek. I just had one more point and a practice that I wanted to share. So we built this application for hiring, right? We do video interviews, we do AI interviews, and then pass along. So we were hiring for one of our clients, and when we looked at the transcripts of the interviews, right? Candidates, as Karthik rightly put, you market it and you showcase all your awards and all your aspects of the organization or why that person should join you. But we realize that authenticity also has a premium, right? Authenticity also carries a lot of weightage. So we started showcasing the not not so bright aspects as well of a candidate with candidates consent, and said, you know what, you don't have to be 100% fit, we're all human, right? But as long as you are aware of those traits, you're aware to improve yourself, you're aware to contextualize and become better, this is still fine. And we put across, and the client appreciated it so much, and they now want that for all the candidates. And not only that, the candidates are much more happier because they don't have to hide or color their answers with different words to highlight or low light their aspects. Now they are authentic, they are presenting themselves much better, and the interviews are going great, and we've had good hires so far, and the whole system is now appreciating the fact that technology can deliver, not just be scared, but also authentic aspects of experiences.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Megha, I hope you got your answer. Thank you for asking that question. And one last question before we conclude our conversation today is from Neha in the chat. As organizations become increasingly skill based rather than role based, how can leaders build a culture where employees are encouraged to continuously learn, unlearn, and reinvent themselves without feeling insecure about their jobs?
So maybe Vivek, if I step in, this is something presently it's happening in my own organization, and I myself are doing it. See, there are three ways to look at it. Now, while it's becoming a skill based, but it's also important to know what kind of skill taxonomy we have from a knowledge, skills, and abilities point of view. That is something decoding needs to be done, and that needs to be interlinked to the role based. Within the roles there are multi levels of skills required, whether you talk about, when I say knowledge, skills, and abilities, I'm talking about from a perspective of technical, technological, functional, behavioral. Okay, these are the multifacets that I'm talking about. And skill sets, the knowledge that is required is phenomenally very different from different roles to roles, from the people to people. So that is something which we need to be mindful about it. Now, between the skill-based hiring which is happening and the role-based expectations are building in, what is more important thing is what kind of capabilities are we building within the organization, and what is a gap are we trying to understand, study, and fill it up. And that will allow us to know what kind of career paths that we are creating within the organization. Everybody won't get a vertical growth. There is an horizontal growth. There is a matrix growth. Every permutations, combinations we can take, just like the Google map. So we need to be mindful that till the time we are creating meaningful career paths, which is vertical as well as horizontal, and we understand that we are focusing on business capabilities. Okay, eventually business outcomes should arrive. Whatever is the financial goals that are being set by the organization, we work towards in that direction. Then we can address the skills and the roles in close partnership with the business leaders, and especially learning and development team can't work in isolation anymore. They should be an integral part of the businesses who can understand the business nuances and customize the learning interventions. That's how
Wonderful.
I would
Thank you
like to
very
put it
much.
in.
Thank you very much, Karthik. Neha, I believe you probably have some, response in that direction for you to continue to explore. I can probably add two words, curiosity and growth mindset, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to explain in a lot more detail. Please do connect with us or ping us on LinkedIn and we can continue the conversation. And join us every week. Some of important questions are coming up through chat, and we do encourage this fraternity to explore and brainstorm these aspects as well. But with that, thank you very much, all the four panelists. I know Ravi Shankar had to drop off, but Karthik, Srinath, and Kingsley, you have given us great perspectives, examples, and genuine actionable insight as well. That's what we all need as a community, right? And thank you for putting this together, Faisal and HRAI. Over to you.
Faisal, just
Thank you.
before you take over, just I want to encourage whoever has not read the book called The Barefoot Coach by Paddy. I would encourage you all to pick up the copy of it. You all will understand some of the things being articulated here. The gentleman himself has faced it.
Thank you. Thank you, Karthik. And thank you, Vivek, for leading today's discussion with such energy and ease. Your thoughtful questions brought out valuable insights from the panelists. Thank you to all our esteemed panelists. Your perspective added tremendous value to today's discussion. For those eager to learn and grow, the recording of today's session is available on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. Thank you to all our participants for being part of the session. Your presence made the discussion even more meaningful. We look forward to welcoming you to our next session on the topic the AI skill gap nobody is talking about. Is AI moving faster than people can adapt on July 9, 2026? With that, we conclude today's webinar. Thank you for being part of this journey. Take care and farewell for now. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Srinath.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.